Hello everyone and welcome back to the Prado Museum in Madrid, Spain. We're continuing our Wednesday series of short conversations in English, and we do this thanks to the help of the American Friends of the Prado Museum. The American Friends is a non-profit organization that supports the museum in as many ways as we can, like these weekly conversations in English. And today we're going to be looking at one of the most representative images of Spanish Gothic painting, this monumental panel by Bartolomé Bermejo, Santo Domingo de Silos. Bartolomé Bermejo was born in Córdoba and active in Valencia, Daroca, Saragossa, and Barcelona, and he's considered one of the greatest painters in Aragon from the last part of the 15th century. He accepted this commission to decorate the altarpiece for the church of Santo Domingo de Silos in Daroca with paintings in 1474. The original altarpiece in Daroca was dismantled in the 19th century, and two of the paintings and part of the architectural elements are here in the Prado today. And this is the central panel of that original altarpiece, and it is a beautiful example of Spanish 15th century painting. It was completed entirely by the artist, entirely by Bermejo, and in it we can see the transition towards the Renaissance in Spanish art. Now, Saint Dominic is a saint from the 11th century, and he was the founder of the monastery of Silos in Burgos, and he was the monastery's first abbot. In the contract that the artist and his clients agreed on, the clients directed Bermejo to paint Saint Dominic as a bishop. And we have it here in the title, right? Saint Dominic of Silos enthroned as a bishop. But in fact, St. Dominic really wasn't a bishop, he was an abbot. So why would the clients ask Bermejo to paint St. Dominic as a bishop? Well, this is because the attire that identifies a bishop is really similar to that of an abbot. And so just in case Bermejo didn't know how to paint an abbot, at least he would certainly know how to paint a bishop. And so what are those identifying elements? Well, we can see the cope, which is this cape that he's wearing, the mitre, his hat, and the crozier, or the staff. In fact, this is just one example of the tone of suspicion that underlies the contract for the commission. It seems like the clients didn't really believe that Bermejo could be trusted to complete the task on time, despite their acknowledgement of his superior skill. They asked for the altarpiece to be finished in 1 year and 3 months, and they threatened him with excommunication if he didn't complete it. This would be a very serious threat to Bermejo as a converso, or a Jewish person that had converted to Christianity. And they ultimately did this. After more than 2 years without completing the project, they did process his excommunication. They had to continue the deadline with a second contract, and he relied on the help of assistants to complete the rest of the altarpiece. But this painting, we know from technical studies done by the conservation team here at the museum, we know that this was done completely by Bermejo. Now, in the 15th century, the Flemish style of painting was a powerful influence in the peninsula. And it results in what is called the Hispano-Flemish style. Other painters who learned the Flemish style from a distance, meaning by looking at paintings that arrived in Spain from the region, were maybe able to pick up on some more superficial characteristics, but it seems like Bermejo may have really trained there, because he paints in a way that is really Flemish through and through. So how do we identify that Flemish inspiration? Well, the rich, velvety texture of the materials. We can notice these angular folds as well. The minuscule, precise detail throughout the entire painting. It's so delicate. Look at the transparency. We can see the transparency of this veil here, or the veil on this allegory of temperance. Just beautiful, so delicate. And this style of painting lent particularly well to the comparatively small paintings that were typical in Flanders. But when Flemish painters came to the peninsula, or when Spanish painters applied these Flemish influences in their work, well, they had to make a few adjustments. And the most common adjustment is the size of painting. Because of the tendency to decorate churches with altarpieces here, the size of the commissions tended to be much larger here. And his clients actually specified that they wanted the gold portions of this painting to be done in a gilded relief, pastillaje or pastillage, which is additional material that is put on top of the panel to provide kind of a three-dimensional texture. But Bermejo did something very ambitious and very challenging, very modern really. He decided to use just his paint and different gradations in tone in the varnish to achieve the same effect of volume and texture. And this was really quite daring because he disregarded the most conventional way to add volume and texture. And he relied exclusively on his own skill as a painter. Just another demonstration of Bermejo's extraordinary technique. And it's also very inventive in terms of subject matter. The contract also called for Bermejo to incorporate the 7 virtues. And at the top, I'm not sure if we'll see it very well because of the glare here, but at the top we have charity. And then we have here faith and hope. And these 3 are the theological virtues. Now, charity has a unique iconography here because normally she's depicted as a woman with children resting around her or playing around her or in her lap. But here she's a woman she's embracing 2 men, one older man and one younger man, and you can tell by their clothes that they look like they're maybe from a humble social class. So 2 men that are seeking out the help of charity. And hope here, hope is holding this staff, this branch or a trunk, and then in her other hand she has a strange object, and it looks like almost like a large golden medallion, and if you get close it looks like it even has a profile. Perhaps it could be Christ's profile there in this medallion. The other 4 virtues, the cardinal virtues, are here. We have in the lower left we have Fortitude, again with a unique appearance. We have Fortitude with a sword, and it seems like she might be protecting this naked man. And above her we have Justice. On this side we have Prudence, again with a unique appearance. Normally Prudence is depicted with a mirror and a snake, but here she's reading a book and holding this large candle, this wax candle, symbols of the source of wisdom and the light that illuminates the path for the prudent. And below her, Temperance does have her typical attribute, pouring water into this bowl to dilute wine. On the cope of the saint, we can also see more saints. These would have been important for local devotion. Here we have Saint Peter, Saint Barbara is below him, Saint Andrew, and Saint Apollonia. And then on the other side, Saint Catherine, Saint Bartholomew, and Saint Quiteria. Now, when Joan Molina, one of the curators of this collection, explains this painting, he really puts emphasis on the paradox between fiction and reality, or the illusion of reality, because we have all of this profuse detail in this painting, in the Gothic throne, in his clothing, in the Gothic architecture, the way that the virtues are embedded in these niches, seeming like they're statues in these niches of the architecture, right? And also the way that the painted architecture plays with the three-dimensional architecture of the altarpiece. All of this kind of tricks our senses to make us think that this painting really functions as a window onto the world, but then this contrasts with this depiction of the saint, this rather cold, frontal, hieratic, distant representation of the saint. It feels somehow different, even though it also has excruciating detail, it feels somehow different to us. And Joan Molina even called this representation of Dominic pictographic. So we have this paradox, this fusion of a setting of extraordinary realism, but this stiff, unnatural depiction of the saint. And really this contrast is part of a long tradition that was particularly strong in the medieval period of depicting the divine in a way that separates it from the natural world. Representations that turn away from realism, from naturalism, and turn towards hieratic, frontal, distant representations of the divine to evoke spirituality, power, and otherworldliness. And this contrast, this mix of ideas, would have been perfectly acceptable, perfectly comprehensible to a viewer in the 15th century. And with that, I hope that you enjoyed having a closer look at this beautiful painting by Bartolomé Bermejo, and we'll see you again next Wednesday for more short conversations in English.